So do we want to talk about the latest episode of Real Housewives or all the drama going on the Instagrams and the blogs?
I mean, the most interesting thing right now with Real Housewives of New Jersey is what's going on not on the show, even though this was probably the more entertaining of the episodes so far.
Because it's Fashion Week and a Boujie Brunch and who cares? Yeah.
Nothing less bougie than Danielle.
Like the whole episode was to set up the non-fight at the end. And like I was getting excited for it. I was like, they're going to yell at each other and tables are going to get flipped and they're going to throw jewelry at each other. And then it was just like, nope, just some name calling and some threats. And
I really want to know where this bitch Rachel has been the past couple of years. Because for her to look at Teresa and say, you went to jail and what have you done to uplift yourself? Like, what have you not seen her growth? Have you not seen her...
Like she's been sitting on her hands.
Like this woman has had Super Bowl commercials. This woman had a DirecTV commercial with Dak Prescott a couple of years ago. Like, you guys sit there and tell me she ain't done nothing for herself? She's had 2 kids to college. She's over here in a gorgeous house and she got married. Her marriage was a whole thing. It was a whole spread in People magazine. And you want to sit there and say, what have you done? I don't know who the hell John Fuda was until he come on the show. So don't tell me.
He was the biggest drug dealer in Bergen County. And a sex toy enthusiast. As we've learned.
I mean, neither of those two have made a name for themselves, but you want to start calling the most seasoned housewife, longest running housewife, the woman on the top 10 list of housewives of all time, number 6.
The Hall of Famer.
I think it's E! News who came out with their
I don't
list.
care about that.
But you want to call her a has-been because you want what? Like, and then she's right. Rachel was like when Teresa said to Rachel, you brought up the ex. Like she did. Your whole storyline last year was how you're going to adopt your son from John Fuda's first marriage or whoever he was. And so you brought her into the conversation.
It seems to me that all these people have exes and much like everybody else in the reality TV world are all trying to somehow cash in or get a story printed. Or like, I don't understand why these people are coming out of the woodwork to spread gossip. And then the people on the show are then taking that gossip and running with it. What is the motivation behind this for these people, these exes of Fuda and Louie and all these people? I
mean, there's nothing to it. Like, obviously, but that's Teresa's whole thing. Like, I think Teresa's trying to, I don't know if Teresa's this smart, but like, she's trying to point out the hypocrisy of it, right?
The hip-hop hypocrisy?
Hip-hop hypocrisy. Like, if Louie's exes who were talking, which Rachel seems to forget that they're like, I guess like Teresa can't really talk about it because they were embroiled in a lawsuit with this ex during this time.
Which also seems standard, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, they won that lawsuit, so that's not like a non lawsuit. Like
party emoji.
But like if you're gonna say that Louis' past and and the chitter chatter you're hearing on the internets are valid, why can't Teresa bring it up? If exes can talk and we can bring it up on the show, why can't she bring it up on the show? Why can't John Fuda have to defend himself? Louis had to sit there and defend himself. Everybody called for him for 2 seasons at least, for him to sit there and defend himself and stick up for himself and get ahead of it. But John Fuda needs to get a pass, needs to get like he was young and stupid. You were old when you made these mistakes. First of all, she wasn't old. She was someone who was very much loyal to her husband, and the husband made the mistake and she just got caught up in it.
I don't know why the ageism is coming up about when people are allowed or not allowed to make mistakes. That's the one thing with the Rachel Fuda saying that, like, oh, you made a mistake when you were an adult. That's embarrassing. Like, no, everybody makes mistakes throughout their entire lives. Like, that, like why are we pulling out the age card?
And then for her to bring up her time in prison, like it didn't hurt her daughters. Like we saw that shit unfold before our eyes. We saw it on TV, and it hurt her girls. Like, why would you bring it up and try and use it against her right now to make your argument?
Because low-hanging fruit. These aren't smart people, especially the Fudas. They're not smart people. They're going for the low-hanging fruit. They don't have writers. They don't know how to insult people in an innovative way or a unique way or come up with something that's actually like, ooh, snap, like a grade school like insult competition. It's a low-hanging fruit because that's all they have.
Yeah, so it's just, I mean, I know I'm Team Trey, but right now the conversation is not about what's happening on screen.
That's true. All right, before we get into that, welcome for the first time to the You're So Mean to Me podcast. I'm Chris Robinson.
And Toni Robinson.
And yeah, we took last week off for clinical depression. I don't know.
Oh, we're just saying that?
Huh? I had a sad week. Losing my job and everything, and sometimes just gets you down. So we didn't do a podcast. We didn't do a reality podcast. We didn't do a wrestling podcast. But our reality podcasts after the Vanderpump Part 2, kind of a lot of people saw that and watched that and subscribed from it. So thank you. Hello to new subscribers. Didn't expect that. YouTube kind of pushed that out for us. But this week we're going to talk a little bit about the Vanderpump, the final part of the Vanderpump reunion. I know we're a week late, but I think it's still pretty entertaining. But yeah, so what's been going on? And make sure subscribe, all that stuff. Linktree, all our social media, follow us. I don't know why you're doing that. I'm not going to put you on camera for it. I mean, if you want me to, do it again. Do it again.
I'm the face of this franchise. I'm the Teresa of this podcast.
Oh, boy. I'm not the Louis.
You're definitely not.
You're going to get what's coming to you. Just you wait. Because it's coming. Yeah. No, I'm not the Louis. I'm not. Anyway.
You're the Frank Catania.
I'm the what?
The Frank Catania.
I'm the Frank. Oh, wait. Let's get to that in a second. So, Linktree. Before we get into again, that was my other favorite part of the episode. The part of the episode where you loudly exclaimed your opinion in our living room. Frank demonstrating how he's going to propose to his girlfriend to Delores in the restaurant, and the whole restaurant being like, "Oh my god!" And you were like, "You better not be practicing on your ex-wife." Like, yeah, no, that was a moment for you. You did not like that.
No, if I was seeing that, I mean, I don't think Brittany cares. Brittany does not look like the brightest bulb. She's like,
oh, come on.
She's younger than me, and you're marrying Frank Catania. She looks like a ditz.
Frank the Tank Catania.
And Frank isn't the brightest bulb. Frank was, I mean, he was a lawyer once upon a time. He got disbarred.
Well, that'll happen.
I mean, I think if this was any other person, I feel like we would have a really interesting conversation about the age gap, and because they were dating for a while, so he was dating this woman in 20s.
But the actual the fake proposal.
It goes back to why I think Brittany wouldn't care, because I don't think she's with Frank for the right reasons.
You clearly care. Like, if you found out that I practiced proposing to you while out to dinner with my ex-wife, like if that got back to you, look, I can see like your eyes, they're twitching right now. That would send
I'd file for divorce right now. I don't want
if you found out now that had happened, you would go, yeah, that would send you through. It's just funny how that triggered you pretty hard, just sitting there like,
on both sides. I would be pissed if I was Paulie too. Like, how are you pretending to propose to my woman right now?
But how long have they been divorced? They've been divorced for a long time.
They're a little too close for comfort for me. I would not.
Exactly.
That was part of the contention last year too with Paulie and Frank, where like Delores had to actually start setting boundaries with Frank. But this was a long time. When Delores first came on the show, Frank was still paying her bills, and she was so dependent on Frank. So I never was comfortable with that relationship. Like, I get it that they're just friends, but they've been way too close for comfort. And I think...
You know who's probably been weirder for? Their kids sitting there. Their son and daughter are sitting there watching this happen.
They're not the brightest either.
So,
have
you handed out an IQ test to this family? What are you doing? They're not Mensa. We get that. But, I mean, come on. Leave the Catanias alone. They're nice people. I feel like they're the least dramatic right now. They're just almost like...
I think Delores is sneakily shady. I don't think she's like... Because even like last week when she was like, I don't get why they're... Like, I'm in the Twilight Zone with Jackie and Teresa. Like, people move on all the time. But all of a sudden, Teresa wants to move on with people. And it's like, this makes no sense. Like, okay, let's get over it. Like, the whole thing about the show is like feuds changing and alliances changing. And it happens all the time in 13 seasons on the Housewives. Like, once upon a time, Marge and Teresa were besties too. So you want to come here and act like, oh, it don't make no sense. Like, oh, come on.
That was a great impersonation of Delores. All right. So, I mean, yeah, other than that, I mean, it's same old, same old. They're trying to, have these arguments and get into these disagreements and everything. We heard the word Fashion Week more than I'd want the phrase Fashion Week. Oh, my God. Enough about Fashion Week. So what's going on that I've been hearing about all weekend long leading up to this episode about what's going on in the blogs?
Oh my God. So it was confirmed by people. So
no.
There was a reputable source.
Confirmed by people. All right. So it not confirmed by Bravo yet.
Bravo? I don't know, because if
I haven't seen
people's not moving forward with the story if it ain't true, and people's very closely connected with like the news that coming out of Bravo. So
okay, but there's nothing like official.
I'm
Bravo
just saying
press
that
release.
like sometimes I just like listen to the bloggers, and you're like, oh well, these people like it's like the dirt sheets. You don't know what's true or not.
Yes.
So when like people is a real like source.
But
okay?
there's people like in wrestling who have like are legitimate and are right more times than they're wrong. So you're like, okay, I tend to believe
so
it.
I think people
but just for the record, Bravo has not stated this yet.
Bravo has not come out.
Okay.
At least I didn't see it as of right now.
All right. So what? So
and the word on the street is there's no Real Housewives of New Jersey reunion this season. They canceled it. It was supposed to be end of June. I think June 27th was the date, and it was leaked
that's coming up quick.
It was leaked. by one Bravo and Cocktails site first, and then they quickly deleted it, but then it started running. People picked it up.
Okay, so wait. So the original poster deleted it?
So the word on the street for this one is that blogger gets information from specific people on the show. And
Cast members.
Yeah, that leak it to them. And if they leaked it first, then they knew who talked, right? So if they came out from this blog site, then they know who said something. So I think they wanted to delete it first so that they weren't the first to break the news, so that nobody could trace it back to the people who leaked it.
But once it's out there, it's out there. It's the internet. Once you put something out there, somebody screenshotted it. Somebody, you know, it's
and whatever it is, I don't know who said something, but it's gonna get out there eventually. People talk. I'm sure, like Bravo probably leaks shit too sometimes. It's like the White House. You leak things just because, like.
And now it's a political podcast. Oh, no.
But yeah.
Wait, so I mean, this is a big deal because I mean, for me anyway, I feel like the reunions are the best part of the season of these shows. I mean, for Vanderpump, it's definitely been that way the last 2 years, just getting into that show. Like, you're just waiting for everything to come to a head. And I think for you, the same thing. I remember when we first started dating, you were watching and introduced me to the show. You were like, the reunion is, you know, where worlds collide and everything. They rehash things and new eruptions
And the reunions
happen.
are important because sometimes there are things that like people address because they couldn't address it because they have it behind their back.
They hash it out. They squash the beefs.
So it's like Jackie or Marge would see the conversations being had while she wasn't there that she might not have been privy to, and see, or it might have been reported back to her, and she'll be like, "Oh, it wasn't as bad as it was told to me." Things like that happen on the reunion, so it's more interesting, and you make people answer for things.
But this time, I mean,
this seems like a punishment, and I think
punishment for the cast.
I think it's a punishment, but I think it's specifically for Marge and her side of the divide, so the Rachel and Melissa and Danielle.
But why not just, if it's a punishment for just her, why not just not include her in the reunion?
You can't do that. You
can do anything you want. Like if she's become such a problem or she's done something.
I've seen people not come to the reunion. You can't disinvite a cast member who's been on the show this season and not have them come and also have that conversation. So the couple of things that I've been hearing. One thing is that Bravo's like, the cast is so divided that there's no point in this reunion because there's not going to be any squashing of the beef, right? People are going to leave here the same way they came, divided and upset. Nobody's going to hear each other out. There's no real moving forward.
Andy Cohen's not going to be able to kind of
there's no therapy session going to happen that people are going to break down and like figure it out.
That's weird to me because
and it does seem true because but Teresa, you know, like she's not talking to Melissa. Melissa still stayed pressed. You saw all of the faces she was making at the brunch.
Oh my God!
When Teresa was talking, I was like, "Girl, you staying pressed." Like Teresa got her foot on your neck. Like, come on now.
So many faces. I thought she was having a couple mini.
But Teresa don't pay her no never mind. She just goes and does her thing. Like when Melissa talks, she don't listen. But Melissa over here making faces. Like, come on now.
Teresa doesn't what?
She don't listen.
No, but what you pay no mind. I'm going to watch that back. I don't know what you said there.
Anyways, the other things they were talking about is that it seems that Bravo may be upset with certain cast members, specifically the ones like Melissa, Rachel, John, Marge, who keep posting and making comments on social media like, can't wait for the reunion, can't wait for the reunion. They don't like that. Like, stop, like,
well, like I said about
stop
Vanderpump,
trying to tease these things.
Like I said about Vanderpump, they're clout chasing on their own social media because they want to remain relevant. They want people talking about them. Like, this is all they have. Some of these people, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not all like.
But that's why I say it's punishment. Teresa can go on and still do Teresa shit. Teresa's a name in the Bravo celebrity world, like in like
she's
reality show. Yeah,
she's crossed over.
She's already got sign-ons for House of Villains and Traitors or something. She'll be in more commercials. She has her own thing with the cooking show. Like, she has like her businesses and like her home brand, right? Teresa can stand alone.
Yeah.
If anything, Bravo can give her own show and she'll do fine.
That's kind of what I was thinking when you first told me this. I'm like, look, I mean, I feel like a lot of these shows, I mean, they've been on a long time, and eventually these dramatics and these situations, it's going to boil over. It's going to come to a point where there's no going back for these relationships. And I mean, just watching Vanderpump, Lisa Vanderpump talking about, she was on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and then she got tired of those people and couldn't take it, and she fully shifted her attention to Vanderpump Rules and her other stuff. Like, I mean, if you break out to the level that Teresa's broken out and kind of like become a mainstream celebrity almost, Yeah, the clock's ticking on the show because she's just not going to put up with it. And if she leaves, like I asked you, I was like, what happens if Teresa leaves? You're like, there's no show.
There is no show. I mean, everybody knows it. I mean,
unless they totally recast it.
I mean, Atlanta's been going downhill since Nene left. Like, I don't watch Atlanta.
And now they've retooled that. They retooled New York. I mean, they have to retool these shows. It's there's got to be turnover in the roster.
And I feel like Teresa could be another Lisa Vanderpump who just has show after show after show. She could do a show with her daughter. She could talk about
I just want to see
fashion.
Teresa and Louie at home.
Yeah. Why not?
Having ridiculous
She could have a
conversations.
cooking show. She could do this and that. I mean, she just talked about her degree in fashion. Very well educated woman, clearly. So
a true inspiration to you.
But the one thing I told you that I think is a really big one, and I think people started talking about it or picking up on it on the show, was I told you that it seems Bravo is not pleased with Marge getting involved in contract negotiations. So it was just released around the same day, so yesterday,
right,
that Jackie had a conversation, I forgot what she was getting interviewed, where Marge said to her, I guess she wanted them to band together and not come back to the show if Louis came back.
Okay,
right?
So she wanted to pull a little union move. But
so she asked Jen Fessler and Jackie, like, oh, we won't come back if Louis comes back. You guys have to quit the show if Louis comes back with me, right? I mean, obviously Marge never did it. But Jackie apparently didn't agree in the moment, and she said that's where the rift with her and Marge started. Now, this goes back to, like, the whole conversation after last reunion, where everybody's like, oh, someone's getting fired. Teresa's strong-arming people. She don't want to, like, be with Melissa. Like, everybody thought that, like, Teresa was the one who gave the ultimatum, like, no, Melissa, I'm not coming back. And that was the delay in filming.
Okay.
I'm starting to think, because, like, Andy said on Watch What Happened Live when Melissa was on the show, when Melissa said something, oh, she thought that she could, like, get me to not come back or get fired. And Andy called her out and said, to be fair, Teresa never gave us an ultimatum. When we did the contract negotiations with Teresa, she never gives an ultimatum that it's you or her. Right?
Because if there's no conflict, there's no show.
So this right now seems to be that the conversation with the it's us or them happened with Marge and them. Right? And for me, that's very telling that they were the ones trying to be like, oh, you have to get rid of Teresa. She's not. And they lost the fight. Right? And now,
obviously.
Now Bravo's not happy that she's getting involved in that. She's also released a lot of information that I feel like really blew the rest of the season for a lot of people. Like, if you're not watching for the reunion, you already know what's going to happen because Marge told you.
She's making power plays, and she's not going about it the right way because Marge is across, like you said, the brightest bulb. You know, a lot of these women, again, I feel like she's just angling for her own selfish reasons to try to get the attention on her, try to get more podcast interviews, try to get a book deal, like whatever it is.
First of all, I didn't even know Marge had a podcast, and like someone told me she did. I'm like, I never even heard of Marge's
exactly.
podcast.
So if they, as soon as they start doing something for themselves and trying to branch out and do their own thing, now they've got to do their own marketing, their own advertising. They've got to get people listening and watching. Just like the Vanderpump people and everything else. So, yeah, she's going to start saying some dumb shit that she shouldn't say, and she's going to piss off people at Bravo. And, yeah, I mean, the show can do without her. This whole season for her, like, oh, my dead husband. Oh, I'm so sad. But
oh, my God, we didn't talk about that. That shit's so annoying.
First
of all, I really want to know who knows the anniversary of their friend's ex-husband's death. Like, I'm not marking that shit on my calendar.
I couldn't tell you the day my father died. I could tell you the year. I can't tell you the exact day. I couldn't tell you I'm sorry, I don't remember sad shit like that. I know that person's gone, and I miss them, and I'm upset about it, but, like, this woman, and she's like, I think it's messing up her current marriage. I'm like, well, yeah, of course it is, because your current husband's like, why the fuck are you pining after your dead husband so much? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, she's a ridiculous person.
And I don't believe for a second she talked to Jan as much as she says she did. She's like, oh, I talked to him every day. We talked all the time. And it's like, this man wanted nothing to do with you.
Well, what happened if I talked to my ex-wife every day?
You do talk to your ex-wife every day.
I don't talk to myself every day. That's not true. I'm just saying, I had full-on conversation, not like, hey, when are you picking up Kyle, my son? When are you doing this, that? No, I'm talking about, like, if I had a full-on friendship with her.
Especially after that shit fell apart over, like, an affair. Like, you don't think they're buddies.
And Marge is the one having the affair.
And Marge is over here acting like she's the widow, too. Like, Jen was remarried.
Oh, really?
And Jen has an actual widow out there. And you're over here taking on this grief like you the widow. Like, this isn't about you. Your kids are grieving.
No, it is about her. That's the thing. She really is. I think she's really trying to construct more of, like, her story and her character.
Like, look how sad I am. Like,
yeah, why didn't you call me? Like, why didn't you call me?
You cared about this person so much, you should never, stepped out on him, honestly.
Yeah, she's insane. I mean, it's going to be sad if she's the reason that they're not doing the reunion, if the show starts to fall apart. But I feel like she's the most toxic element. I mean, the Gorgas aren't great either. They're kind of,
and the Fudas are kind of taking
Fudas
their
are at
cues
least
from the Gorgas.
Entertaining right now because she's going after Teresa. I think she knows like somebody's got to be Teresa's nemesis, and if Marge is just going to put up the wall and not deal with her, then okay, Rachel Fuda will step in and be Teresa's nemesis this season, and we'll see how that plays out. It's not playing out well so far, but I feel like if we're kind of getting this look behind the curtain of how Bravo and their producers kind of direct things, that's clearly what they're doing.
Well, I mean, I also think a lot of people aren't just blaming Marge and them. I think there's a lot of people who just also think that this season just isn't working. This was the same issue we had with
The ratings are down.
Ratings are down. Nobody wants to watch. Like, we get that it's not the same old thing, but we also don't care for, like, listen, I know I'm a Trey fan. I don't hate on Melissa and Joe. I mean, they're not my favorite. I don't hate on them. I don't think they're bad people, but I don't think they bring anything to the show if they're not beefing with Teresa. Right?
Yeah, if you're not creating drama, then
like I don't like Marge either. I think Marge is actually toxic, but I want that bitch on my TV screen because she's entertaining.
Right.
Like
until she starts causing problems behind the scenes and screwing things up.
Yeah, well that pissed me off. But like she's entertaining at least, and she's funny. She's actually funny. Melissa can't be funny. Joe Gorga is cringe. Like these people do not belong on my television, and like so I think Teresa knew that like nobody wants to see that anymore. And if I'm not talking to Melissa, she's not relevant, and she isn't relevant. She hasn't been relevant this season.
Right.
Even her conversation with like what's her face, the other Jen Aiden.
Yeah.
Even Jen Aiden feels a little irrelevant. I feel like she's beefing with Danielle for the fun of it, but like.
So yeah, all right. Well, let's stop the Housewives talk there. Switch to Vanderpump. I know it's been a week, but. I mean the way that show ended, the way the reunion ended, like I don't see where they go from here in as a cast. First of all, I mean, Tom Sandoval turned on the waterworks. Lala showed her true colors. That to me, I mean, the part two, Lala showed kind of who she was, and then she went balls to the wall. And it was basically like, hey Ariana, why didn't you have that conversation with Tom that the producers wanted in the final episode? Why didn't you think about me in the show in that moment and not yourself and your own like comfortability? It's like, huh? like what? Like this is my livelihood, and I have a daughter and another daughter on the way. Like Lala has made everything about her, and it's like everybody finally got to see it. I mean that's got to be. If Ariana ever talks to that woman again, I'd be shocked.
Well, Sheena did say. I mean, it's kind of good that we waited a bit because like there's a lot of aftermath and conversations that are still
because they've all got podcasts.
Yeah.
And,
So Sheena did mention that the executive producer actually straight up said, if we don't get this, you guys are not probably gonna get you're probably gonna get canceled. The show isn't gonna be doing that well if Ariana doesn't give us this. And Ariana, I don't understand what these people think. Like, I'm really annoyed at this like conversation about we show up, we do the work. Like,
yeah, you what? Like, you live your lives. And
first of all, the whole thing with Lala this year was a water tasting, and then picking her baby daddy,
her sperm donor.
Like, that wasn't work. And then you
good thing they didn't mix the two up.
Mildly beef with Katie. Like, I don't understand what she was trying to do there. Like. At least
Lala was trying to make it about her. She was. I told you, she's tired of Ariana being the center of attention. It used to be about the cast. This season it was about Sandoval and the aftermath, and these two. That was the focus of the show. She couldn't do anything interesting to save her life, and now she's pissed about it.
Like, and the other thing is like, I don't know what they seem to be forgetting. Where like they think that Ariana still. I was like, you should. Oh, Sandoval, sit down. I was like, they picked up cameras like 2 or 3 weeks after this shit went down.
Yep.
And that bitch was on camera at her worst. Like, this wound was fresh, still bleeding. And she gave us that last episode last season. And then she showed up for the reunion and gave us that reunion that season. She could have walked away then. She gave this show what they wanted. They still wanted to, like, they're still trying to, like, what is it? Get water from the stone?
Blood from the stone.
Blood from the stone?
Yeah.
And I was like, she was like, I'm done giving this to you. I told you I'm setting my boundaries. And she still showed up for all this. She went to the beach. She went to all these events that he was there at. She just said, I don't want to talk to him. The worst she did this season was maybe shit talk Sandoval to that girl he was dating. But to be honest, still fresh. And
yeah, that was the only thing for me.
I feel like that was the only thing that really looked bad on her. That and like having food in her room, that was gross. But like at the end of the day, I also understand that like I think people are forgetting that when you feel trapped in your home and you only have a sanctuary, like you keep to that sanctuary. Like I've been like in a space where I'm like I'm gonna be holed up in my room, and I had like my food in my room, right? And I didn't want to leave the room again because I knew they were out there.
Yeah, that to me wasn't. Yeah, I mean. nobody's criticizing Ariana. Like they're saying, like, and she's trying to turn Katie on her. Like, oh, well, you were saying these things about her while she was off doing this, and Sheena, you wanted to do Dancing with the Stars, and she didn't tell you. Like everything was Lala trying to villainize Ariana. They're trying to get the Sandoval redemption arc kind of tied up, where like, oh, like who's on his side and his friends again. Like it all just felt very forced.
And Ariana wasn't asking of them anything. Like, she made it seem like Ariana was forcing their hand to be like, you have to be this way with me. You can't be mad at me, blah, blah, blah. And she wasn't. She just set a boundary and said, if this is how you're going to be, I don't need that in my life. Yeah. And that's a very healthy, respectable boundary for a grown woman to have. Like, she has too much going on that's good that she's not going to fill the rest of her life with negative shit. And that's Sandoval.
You know me, Ariana. You knew me. I'm so sorry. It's like, oh man, this guy. I'm sorry. None of that was genuine. If you watch the last episode before the reunion when he was like, oh, that came off good for me, like that proved it right there. Like he's just acting to try to.
Yeah, and if you want authenticity, you're not getting it from Sandoval.
No, it's just like wrestling. He's a heel. He's trying to make a babyface turn, and he tried to force it, and they tried to use Ariana to make it happen and turn her heel, turn her to the bad guy. It didn't work. And Lala's mad because she didn't go along with the plan, kind of, and now...
Which seems more authentic than anything else. Like, walking away and breaking the fourth wall and saying, you're not getting this out of me, I said no, it was more entertaining.
Yeah. And then Sheena and Brock over there just looking like derps. Like, they're so boring. God damn it. They get, like, if they can get rid of anybody in the show, get rid of Sheena and Brock. They are so boring. Like, at least Schwartz is hilarious and goofy and gets involved with the wrong type of women. Joe. But... yeah, like and Sheena just being like, oh, like I'm singing now, and like no one cares.
Well, even like the thing with Sheena that I really found annoying was how she keeps saying like, well, Sandoval's been, or he showed up and blah blah blah, and like trying to make it sound like he's been a good friend.
She's walking the line. We've talked about this.
This guy, this is a guy that at the beginning of the season said you punched Raquel. He was fully on board with Raquel or Rachel, whatever you want to call her now.
Irrelevant. I call her irrelevant.
Yeah. Putting, giving, like, what is she, filing the restraining order against her, right?
Yep.
Like, he was fully on board and supportive of that,
right?
Brock even said, oh, we heard that your people put out the rumor of me sleeping with Raquel, right? Or this conversation. So that's already like 2 or 3 shitty things he did to you. Then he gets into an argument with you over your song. And then she tries to be real with you and say, because of what you did, I'm now insecure in my relationship, which is valid. I think every woman in America experienced it then. And he had the nerve to be like, well, you slept with a married man. This your friend? This your friend? That's your friend? Like, come on, Sheena. You're going to sit here and tell me that man is your friend after all the shit he did after Sandoval because he was mad at you for talking about it?
The microphone exploded during that last rant.
But that's so frustrating. Like and that's why people get so mad at her and call her a pick me and say she wants male validation. That's all she's ever been. She used to sit there and say, I'm not a feminist, blah, blah, blah. Like, this bitch, that's why she's with Brock. Only a woman who doesn't respect herself would settle for a Brock. Because any woman who knows her worth is not going to date a Brock or marry a Brock.
I mean, he did look like Jason Momoa for a while with the long hair. Anyway, so coming at all that, you made a lot of great points. A lot of loud, great points.
You always say I'm loud. Well, you want me to be quiet?
No, it's not an ASMR podcast. Do you think... I mean, they're not filming right now, and they're kind of pseudo-blaming Ariana's schedule. Do you think the show's going to come back? I mean,
yes.
They haven't made an announcement either way. When it's just going to be different? Like, they're going to film what, in the fall? Like,
I think they'll come back. I think they wanted to make it seem like it was over to kind of allude to that because of how the narrative played out on the show and what things were being said. Because
now it just feels like another season. It's like the aftermath of the aftermath. It's like, I mean, does Ariana come back to the show? That's another question.
I mean, the next season could just be all of them groveling. Like, Lala coming back. Hat in hand, tail between her legs. I'm so sorry. Like,
well, because we talked about all the trying to get in the valley, but I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think so.
I don't know why she would want to go to that show, which I'm sure isn't as popular when she's established
People
herself.
really like the valley. We just didn't feel it.
It's terrible. I watched that one episode. But I think she's established herself. She made the heel turn at the end there, and she's going to, like you said, either come back and now get to redeem herself to Ariana, or going to have to go full bore and be just a heel, and she's going to be a new mom again.
I mean, I really want it to be another season because I want to see what happens if Joe comes back, because I want to see Joe just kind of like weasel her way back in.
I thought that was done. I thought he blocked her.
He blocked her, but you can block people and still have them be on TV.
She's not a cast member.
They can make her one.
Ugh, no, I'm good on that. I'd rather see Schwartz yucking it up with some new broad than Joe again.
New broad, really?
Yeah, because Schwartz dates broads. Katie's a broad. He was married to a broad. You don't think she's a broad?
I mean, if anybody's a broad, it's Katie.
She's surly. She's
a broad.
I like Katie. She's probably one of my favorite cast members. But yeah,
she's drinking brown liquor and smoking a cigar. She's a broad.
Yeah, and I love the flashbacks. They show her evolution where she didn't start out that way. She evolved into that. Good job, Schwartz. You ruined this poor woman, but she came out of it okay.
My favorite line to her was when she told Sandoval, "Okay, we'll choke."
I'm a delightful person. What are you talking about? Choke.
I want to tell that to people we'll choke.
She's wonderful. Anyway, and the earring part was hilarious. And they were like, we all needed that. I'm like, did we? A moment of brevity with her earring?
But I don't think there's ever been, and people have been saying this now, such a unanimous hatred for someone since Sandoval, because everybody agrees that Lala was just horrible.
Yeah, and she's now the new main villain on the show.
There's no these women are not girls. They're not they're over here just and that there was a TV show I watched one time where people think because we've adapted and women have adapted and we came so long women don't do this anymore. We're not cutthroat anymore. Blah blah blah. And someone said no. At the end of the day, when the tables are down and you're pushed up against a corner, women will do what they always do and eat their own. And that's the epitome of what happened with this show. Lala and Sheena were oh shit, my bag's in trouble. I need and I'm now mad at Ariana. She did nothing wrong but stand her ground and do what a woman's supposed to do, have a backbone and validate herself and tell herself this is what I need in order to move forward. And they were fuck you and your mental health, fuck you and your needs, fuck you and your healing. We need you to perform for us.
To play along, yeah. Instead of playing along and going by, the script, even though there's no real script, but yeah, that's the thing.
And
yeah.
that's why so often people, I always say to people, the biggest oppressors of women are always other women. They're just going to, when things get like this, women don't care. It was all oh, we're all rallying around Ariana when shit went down. Then all of a sudden she's not doing enough for you. While she's hurting, she's not doing enough for you. And you're oh, well, that sucks for me and my kid and my life.
What's Ariana's boyfriend's name?
Doug? Ben? Joe?
Dan. Wow, you just rattled off names. You didn't even stop to think about it.
I remember thinking that is such a basic name for him because he looks like he should have a fancy name. And so I kept all the basic names.
All right. I don't know what a fancy name is. Ulysses. No.
Raphael. It has to be fancy.
Do you want him to have a Ninja Turtle name? Leonardo.
Yes! Multiple syllables. Dan is one
That's
syllable.
That's not where I was going with this at all. I was going with, if they really wanted drama, they would have had Tom be hey man, I'm Tom, nice to meet you. He just knocked him the fuck out. Just punched him right in the face. Be well, there's your drama. He just knocked out Sandoval.
And nobody would have been mad at you, Dan. Nobody would have been mad at you.
Well, that's how that ends. But no, that's not going to happen because he looks like a respectable human being who didn't want to be on the show, according to Ariana, because they were why do you want to? He's because he's not getting paid. I was that's hilarious. But smart. If he wasn't getting paid to be there, keep me the hell off camera. Unless I absolutely have to be on camera.
Yeah, he has no contract. Ariana's smart about that. He's he has no contract with you guys. He has no obligation to be on camera.
She said he doesn't want to be on the show. And
then Andy being shady, Brock wasn't paid for a while. And it was Brock didn't have a job. What was he going to do?
I was homeless, mate. I had nowhere else to go. I lived in this studio
and
for
Dan
about 3
isn't
weeks.
cloud chasing. He doesn't want to be on the show ever. It's not he's working his way up to it. He's I got my own job. I got things that pay the bills.
He's the opposite of Joe who clears Syria. He was the opposite of Joe who clearly, I feel was dating Schwartz to be on the show.
Yes, 100%.
Because the things have come out since then, whereas Dan's oh, I met this woman, we're into each other, I like her, we're dating, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. That's the thing. It's tough because when you're dating someone, especially who's been in the spotlight for the reason she's been in the spotlight, not just reality TV, it's hard to kind of, find that balance and be all right, I have to be on camera. I have to spend time with my woman, And
remember, Dan lives in New York, so if Dan really wanted to be on the show, Dan would have moved to LA, but that's apparently a contentious thing right now. That's not contentious, but that's a conversation they're having.
Yeah. Good for him. I wouldn't want to be on this show.
Which makes it seem like he's more genuine about Ariana than people want to assume, because they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you met him 8 days later." I'm like, when does she have to get over it? When does she like the situation with Sandoval was final? It was final. What does she have to do to move on? Like, she didn't like this like waiting period after relationship. Like, why would I pass on a great guy like Dan just because I'm upset over Sandoval? Like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Dan, who should change his name to Leonardo. Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you want to say? Have we covered it? Oh, what are you holding the mic for now? What are you going to break into song?
Can I?
No. Now my mic popped. Like, no. All right. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Vanderpump if there's another season. We'll continue on with the Housewives and see where things go. Thank you, everybody, for watching, or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Remember, all of our links, follow us on socials, all in the link tree, our X, Twitter, Instagram, everything. And we'll try to be back this week, maybe with a wrestling episode. We'll see how I feel.
So much to talk about.
If I get sad again. Yeah, we missed out a lot last week.
It's good, because I feel like with wrestling, things have been developing slowly. It's nice to kind of let things build.
Yes. All right. You good?
I'm great.
All right. Say goodbye, Toni.
Goodbye, Toni.